Music of the Soul, Prelude, Chapter 3. Ileana Costanza Olivares was described by many as a delinquent, a troublemaker, an immature child, and a prankster. They weren't wrong, of course. She did cause trouble and question authority quite a bit, but that authority needed questioning. But those that knew her best knew her troublemaking came for good reason. At least, those that agreed with her, if silently, knew this. She was boisterous and outgoing, willing to befriend the outsiders and outcasts, often because she was viewed as an outcast herself, in spite of the fact that she had been born into their society. She was fiery and passionate, and at the moment, very bored. Though she had been raised in the secret society with their beliefs and given a basic education that could get her by in outside society, her training had only just begun 2 weeks ago when she suddenly began hearing a strange song in her head. She didn't know the words to it. She didn't even know the language. But she knew what it must be and had told her parents immediately, who then told the council. From there, it had been decided it was best to train her to keep her safe, though there was little chance she would sing that song. She couldn't even understand the words. But why make her sit around and wait to learn? Ileana tapped an impatient foot, her tanned, heart-shaped face framed by silky, ebony hair, looking down at her new roommate with intense and fiery dark eyes. Her head rested on her upturned palm with her elbow balanced on one brown-clad knee as she sat on the edge of her unfortunately firm mattress, covered in a thick quilt her mother had made. It was the only thing approaching ostentation that she was allowed. All of her jewelry and clothes that normally weren't allowed anyway had been put away against the day of her graduation, and at that barely allowed because it was made of such colorful patches. Why students had to be devoid of anything but the color brown was beyond her. After all, even those without power were allowed to wear whatever they wanted, though they typically wanted to wear simple clothing with no patterns or fancy stitching. Their religion taught that ostentation was a distraction from the internal, and that thus was frowned upon, which was ridiculous. A little color made things lively, not distracting. Her roommate lay still on her own mattress on the floor, covered with a simple brown blanket. Her long, dark brown hair was pulled back into a braid tied with a black ribbon at the end. Her round, pale face looked drawn and tired. She got to wear blue jean shorts and a sunny yellow shirt with a silvery snake biting its own tail on the front of it. Well, to be fair, she had not woken up yet, and once she did, she would be made to change into the same simple brown robes as herself. Still, Ileana found it unfair that this stranger, this outsider, got to wear colors while she had to wear brown. Ileana tried not to hate the stranger out of jealousy. If she was going to hate someone, it would be because they earned it with their behavior. Jealousy was an ugly creature that did ugly things, and she would not be like that. So she chose instead to pity this girl. She was an outsider. She still wasn't sure how the girl had been allowed into their society, let alone allowed to train with them, when any others would simply be allowed to kill themselves with their power. And she looked so tired that Ileana wondered what kind of life she must have had to earn those dark circles under her eyes. A well-fed one, to be sure. She was more than overweight, though the blanket hid some of it, but a hard one. She was tired of watching this girl sleep, but she had been charged to watch her and instruct her on the rules and regulations of their society and their training as soon as she woke up, as well as to inform people when she woke up, so arrangements could be made. Just as Ileana was about to sneak out of the room to get a snack, the rules and her orders be damned, the girl's eyes opened, revealing hazel green pupils that looked around, confused. Her jaw opened in a huge, long yawn that made Ileana want to yawn as well, before she turned her head side to side, looking around the small room with white walls that seemed to glow faintly from the sunlight that filtered through the small window high up on the eastern wall, barely large enough to fit a small child through. The only furnishings were the two mattresses with their blankets and wooden pegs on the north and south walls to hang their clothing as needed. There was not room enough for anything else. "Where am I?" she asked as soon as her eyes fixed on Ileana. "I'd tell you, but then I'd have to kill you." "That was a joke," she said when the girl seemed to frown at her tiredly. "What do you remember? Where did you come from?" "Quid pro quo," the girl said stubbornly, still not moving from her bed. "A question for a question." "Fine," Ileana pouted. "We call ourselves the Society of Souls. You are in our Western Oregon base. I'm Ileana Constanza Olivares. You may call me Her Royal Majesty Princess Ileana Constanza Olivares." "Where did you come from?" "Society of Souls? What is that?" the girl inquired. "Quid pro quo, remember?" Ileana said flatly. "Right. I'm Krista. I'm from Sheridan. What is this society, and why am I here?" "One at a time. You're here because one of us brought you here, though I don't know why. They just brought you in and told me to watch you." "You were watching me sleep? That's not creepy at all," Krista said, imbuing enough sarcasm to fill a boat. "I was ordered to," Ileana pouted. "It's not like I wanted to sit here doing nothing but watch you sleep. I have better things to do with my time. What do you last remember?" "I was at the beach," Krista said, raising a weary hand to her head, "with my grandfather and my brother. They stayed in the car because it was too windy for them, but I was in the water a bit. I heard a song." "Your soul song," Ileana informed her, her expression now grim. "Did you sing it?" "Well, obviously not, or you wouldn't be here. How far did you get?" "Quid pro quo," Krista said with a wry grin. "Ugh, fine. You next. After you've finished telling me what you remember." "I don't remember what happened. Just that I felt powerful and alive, and then scared. There was this guy there, though. He didn't run. Everyone else was running. Who is he, and why didn't he run?" Krista muttered to herself. "That would be one of us, then. Do you remember what he looks like?" Ileana inquired. "Vaguely. Dark hair, blue eyes, I think. Maybe brown? I don't know. But he's good looking. Maybe it was just a dream. A good-looking guy coming to my aid and whisking me away to who knows where." "Not a dream," Ileana giggled. "We have lots of good-looking men here. That could be Neil, though. I heard he went to the beach about the time you showed up, and he is good-looking." "No way!" Krista exclaimed. "There's no way a good-looking guy would for real scoop me up and carry me away. He'd break his back." "Well, not so much scoop you up as maybe assist you with walking," Ileana said, her eyes watering with tears of laughter that she fought back furiously. At least she was entertaining. "But it wasn't a dream, and it did happen apparently." "I must be dreaming right now then. A dream within a dream." "I could pinch you and prove you're awake," Ileana said with a mischievous glint in her dark eyes. "Somehow, I doubt that will be needed," Krista grunted as she pushed up on her elbows. For some reason, she seemed extremely weak. Odd for someone who just found out that they had powers. Usually, when someone realized their powers, they got a headache from it or a euphoric high that later crashed into depression for a day, and usually the event was so small it was easily dismissed as something more logical. Whatever Krista had done must have been huge to her brain, huge to drain her so and leave her unconscious for so long. That realization came as a blow to her ego. "How long have I been sleeping?" "You got here yesterday afternoon, so I guess about 18 hours. Just what did you do?" "I don't quite remember. Whatever it was, it scared a lot of people. Everyone was running to get away as fast as they could," Krista said with a grimace and a shake of her head. "I would accuse you of lying, but nothing else explains your current state," Ileana said, thinking furiously. No one can create large events on their first attempt, and their first attempt provides only minor aggravation afterwards. So, what was that song I heard? Do you know? Am I crazy? Krista said, beginning to sound afraid. I thought I said one at a time, Ileana teased her. No, you're not crazy. You are gifted. True, some people hear voices and they are crazy, but this is not the same. There's a difference between psychosis and your soul song. The problem is each person's soul song is unique to them, so I don't know what yours is or what it can do. Describing what a soul song is will be difficult and confusing since you weren't raised with us, but I will try. Everyone who is born on this planet is born with a soul. Obvious, yes? Many religions base their faith on this fact. However, eons ago, for some reason no one can explain to the likes of me, some people were born with special souls that can do incredible things. They were heralded as gods or powerful prophets of gods. Later, they were declaimed as witches and murdered and went all but extinct. The few who survived hid themselves from the world, building a society of their own that taught their beliefs and trained those born with special souls that could perform miracles. Not everyone has a special soul, you understand, and usually it's hereditary to some extent. But occasionally we find outsiders with a special soul and train them to be safe with themselves or let them die of their own stupidity. The closest I can describe this is that our souls, while they can do miraculous things without their song as it is, can do extraordinary things with the song. It is the song that the soul sings to the mind, and once the mind and body release the song, the power of the soul itself is released, doing great and terrible things at the cost of that soul. Once sung, the soul is destroyed completely, never to be reborn, she finished morosely. Talking about the soul song was mournful work, because the soul, special or not, was such a precious thing already. To destroy it meant never to be reborn, to never again touch the world. It was a fate worse than death. At least the dead could sometimes contact the spiritually sensitive. At least the dead could be reborn. If that's the case, Krista said, finally pushing herself up into a sitting position, though she swayed for a moment as though she might fall over. Ileana offered a steadying hand, but she managed to steady herself before it was needed. Why would anyone sing their soul song? Because it is sometimes necessary. We don't know right away what our song will do. We learn it as we learn more about ourselves and what we can do without the song. Those of us that do know won't usually sing their song unless it means lives lost if they don't. Lives, plural, not singular. They won't destroy their soul for one person, but a group? Well, they'd count it a fair price in that case, she explained. Have you ever had anyone try to do evil with their power of their song? I don't know, Ileana responded. I never asked. I don't think anyone has ever asked or tried, or if they did try, they were silenced for the greater good. You sound like a cult movie. Well, some would call us a cult, but we are more a religion or a belief. We are an entire society with rules and laws that govern what we do, where we go, everything. Sounds like a cult to me, Krista muttered. Ugh, with all this cult talk, I almost forgot. My grandfather and brother must be wondering where I am. The council will send a delegation to explain to them, though in all likelihood their memories will be altered so they won't worry about you. They can do that? That's actually a thing? Krista blinked in surprise. Yes, though it is very tricky. Very few can do it with any amount of success, so only the best are sent to do the job. They will probably want to talk to you before they go because to alter their memories, they need a believable story, and for that, they need details from you. You're not employed, are you? No, but I've been looking. Good. That's fewer memories to alter and less confusion created when you don't come into work, Ileana explained. Wait, you mean I'm staying here? For how long? Krista said, alarmed. as long as is necessary to train you until you are safe. Since you're an outsider, you won't be held against your will once you are deemed safe. You'll be free to go if you like, so long as you do not announce yourself to anyone or perform any miracles where anyone can see. The council would not like to hear that the outside world has discovered one of us, and I'm pretty sure the outside world would not like having you around, not without poking and prodding and trying to figure out what makes you tick. Good point, Krista murmured thoughtfully. Then her stomach growled loudly, and her face flushed red from embarrassment, causing Ileana to laugh uproariously. You have not eaten since yesterday. It's a wonder your stomach waited so long to protest, Ileana said, wiping a tear from her eye that threatened to flow down her face. I will get you some food. Don't faint on me while waiting. Ileana had been joking, but one glance as she stepped through the heavy wooden door and turned to close it behind her told her that Krista might just faint anyway. She shook her head to herself and dashed down the hall at a near run. Technically, she wasn't supposed to rush anywhere, but she was worried about the girl. As she made her way down the whitewashed hallways that lacked any decor on the walls or furnishings on feet covered in little more than sandals, her footfalls on the plain wooden flooring making almost no sound at all in spite of her haste, she caught up with another student in the same brown garb as she, heading in the same direction, if at a more stately pace. He had black hair, and even from behind she could see the feet of the glasses hanging over his ears. She recognized that form, of a height with herself, from anywhere. Hachiro! She cried out, catching his attention as she caught up to him in the brightly lit, if plainly decorated hallway. Hey, Hachiro! Where are you going? The young man turned to face her, surprise plain in his expression. It took a lot to ruffle or surprise Hachiro, from her experience. They had, of course, grown up together in the society and knew each other, but now he was plainly surprised, though surely not at her appearance. What do you mean, where are you going? He asked, still looking puzzled. Didn't you hear? Hear what? I've been cooped up in my room since yesterday watching the new girl, Ileana explained. That explains it. There's a public birching. Everyone is required to attend, though I'm surprised no one came to inform you. Probably because I was ordered to watch the new girl. I miss out on all the fun. But poor bastard is getting birched, and what did he do to deserve it? Ileana inquired. You really don't know? But I shouldn't be surprised, I guess. For all that you did well in your general studies, you never were very bright or observant, Hachiro told her. It was not an insult, or at least it was not meant to be one, coming from him. It was simply a statement of fact. That it was true made it no less infuriating to her, and she very nearly punched him in the face for it. The only thing holding her back was their lifelong friendship. She would not betray that for anything. Watch it, Hachiro, she told him sharply. It is only the truth. Anyway, since you can't figure it out for yourself, I'll spell it out. Who do you think brought in the new girl? What laws would that break, and what is the punishment for breaking them? This time she was almost certain he was insulting her. I know the punishment for bringing in outsiders, she snapped at him. So, is it Neil? He was out about the time she showed up. Funny, I never pegged him as one to break such an important law. Bend it, maybe, if it was important enough, but not break it. So you did figure it out on your own, Hachiro said, as he adjusted the glasses on his face in that infuriating way of his that seemed to imply he was giving her the bird. He liked to do that a lot, and never got in trouble for it because there was no proof it was intentional, because he did do it all the time. She supposed that was why they were such good friends. She was a prankster, and while Hachiro wouldn't admit to prank pulling, you couldn't pin him down with any evidence, and he was very crafty in skirting the rules. She might actually have to take notes, come to think of it. Yes, it is Neil. He brought her in yesterday after an apparent display that is going to cause us a lot of trouble, at least until we can track down everyone who saw it, assuming we can do so before they go to the media. It may be too late for that already. How is she still alive if that's an issue? Ileana said. now more concerned than ever, more serious than ever. Apparently, he convinced the council that she needed to stay here and be trained, Hachiro told her. But how did he manage that? I know for a fact that Samuel wouldn't have it, or Camille, and I'm pretty sure Malik would be glad to smother her in her sleep. Maybe that is why I was ordered to watch her, to protect her. Perhaps so. Or perhaps to keep her from spying on us. She could, after all, be a spy, Hachiro explained, with much the same tone he used to talk about the weather. She'd have to be a very good actress to pull that off. She slept for 18 hours and only now awoke. She still looks like she could pass out for another 18 hours if I don't hurry and get her some food. Who's cooking today, by the way? She asked. Your mother, Hachiro responded simply. Best go get her that food then. We can contemplate how she is still alive and whether or not she is a spy later. Yes! Ileana exclaimed, pumping a fist by her side. Her mother was a terrific cook and made the best tamales. No one could match her in Mexican cuisine. Lunch is going to rock! Give Neil my condolences. The last was said over her shoulder as she dashed down the hall towards the kitchen in the first mess hall, the closest one, her mouth already watering at the thought of what her mother might be cooking for lunch. She really hoped it was tamales, or at least carnitas.